going on YouTube? It is Coach Kolton here to bring you physique development tools, skills, and opinions that hopefully you can apply for yourself to make some gains. In this video, we are veering off track. Yes, that's right. I know I mentioned in the last video we're going to talk about other things, but I decided that these were more pertinent for the moment. This video is going to be all about how to incorporate cheat meals and if you even need them. Let's go. So at this point in the diet, you are far in. You have reached your 45 calories to 50 calories per kilogram. You are doing super well. You're eating a ton of food. You're getting massive. You are putting on the mass. Now you start to ask yourself, when should I incorporate cheat meals? Well, the realistic answer is ideally never. The idea behind a diet is that it's a way of life and it is going to be the best option for you. Cheat meals are rarely ever going to benefit you. Instead, they're probably going to deter you from performance optimally. Ideally, you just never need them and you don't have to go consume one unless there's outstanding circumstances that need your attention, like a family dinner or a dinner out with your girlfriend or something like that. But even in that sense, I wouldn't really call that a cheat meal. I would just call that a cheat meal off your normal plan. The only reason I would provide cheat meals in an off-season context, one is just to provide some normalcy in a life. As I had mentioned, being able to go out with your family, your friends, or girlfriend, or boyfriend is very essential to just the conglomeration of life, right? Unfortunately, a world we live in is involved around food, so we have to eat in social settings. That's kind of how the world is. Now, I'm not going to do that. I'm very hardcore. I'll bring my own meal, happily. But most people are going to want to prefer the food that their friends are eating in that environment. So I can completely understand that. So in off-season context, those meals are acceptable. But when else is it really acceptable? The only other time is when you are eating so much food already and you just absolutely cannot eat more food, which is very hard for me to grasp because I can always eat more food. But some people just do not have the appetite to eat more food. However, if you say, hey, go get a burger and fries, it's going to be a lot more palatable to them and hyper palatable to get a massive amount of calories in to reach their calorie goal in the off-season context, to hit that 45 to 50 calorie per kilogram goal. But up to this point, honestly, you've reached such high calories that it would be very hard to fit in something like that. So the only reason I would do that is if you really can't eat more, then that would be appropriate. If you're looking for a little bit more of an ergogenic effect, you just want some performance gains in the short term. So maybe you were on a long flight, you're depleted, you just did a long bout of cardio. For whatever reason, you're depleted. This happens a lot. Myself, like I'll be on vacation, I walk everywhere, I'll take 40 to 50,000 steps some days. And in Florida this happened and I was just eating shit the whole time. And every time I ate a meal, I would get like hyper pumped and hyper jacked and my muscles would just get super full and I'd go work out and it would be an amazing workout. So in situations where you're highly depleted, in environments where you could use the ergogenic effect of a high sodium meal or high carbohydrate meal, that's gonna be really beneficial. Lastly, and this is even controversial to say in my opinion, but if you need a little bit of dopamine, if you need a little bit of enjoyment in your life for whatever reason, maybe you're taking things too seriously and work's been getting in the way and training has been getting insane and the diet is insane and you just haven't really had time to enjoy something for a while, it might be time to take a little pause, a little breather for yourself to just enhance your dopamine response to certain things and enjoy life for just a little bit. But the problem with that is dopamine, that's why they call drugs dope, is because we get a dopamine response from food, and just as drugs give dopamine responses, we get addicted to that response, and eventually it's going to be causing a negative feedback loop. So you have to be cautious when perceiving it as that context. But that being said, every once in a while is okay. When you are considering when to have a cheat meal, you just need to be realistic at the end of the day. Do you really need it and will it really benefit you? The answer is no and no. It won't really provide any extra benefit outside of a normal meal. You can say like, oh, well, I get like super pumped after I eat a burger and fries. It's like, why don't you just supplement with your actual diet and get the right nutrients? Because that's probably an indication if you're getting hyper pumped from some sort of meal or all of a sudden your next day's workout is super good, something in your diet is not working for you. And you should probably look at those acute details. Maybe it's sodium, maybe it's preferable carbohydrates, maybe it's fats, and that thing is going to be the fueler to your recovery and performance, not the like 1,500 calorie cheat meal you had that gives you like a hyper pump, bro. Like that's not going to realistically do anything for you. Another thing I hate is like the cheat meal is not going to gain you any extra muscle, right? Just because you can't get the calories in, and that's a way for you to get even more calories in. Like, it's not going to be putting on more muscle. It's just preferably going to be preferring to store as fat at the end of the day. If you're already full with glycogen, which most of you are, if you're at this point, if you're already filled to the brim with food that you should be at this point, whole foods, this is not going to add to anything. It's going to put on more fat tissue, not muscle tissue. So don't get into the idea that like all of a sudden you'll experience these gains that are just like perplexing to every other social human being just because you saw Ronnie Coleman going to McDonald's every day. No, like it doesn't work like that. You will get fat. You have to know that it's not optimal. You have to know that it is suboptimal to go to that meal as opposed to just eating your normal meals. This is a big thing, right? If you seriously think your performance or your off season is going to be enhanced by a meal out, you are corrupted in your thought, okay? A normal meal that's not going to bloat you, cause a ton of water retention, cause a ton of digestive issues, cause you to have your shits and not even digest the food of the day next, and ruin your sleep, cause sleep apnea. I mean, just the list goes on. Cause hypertension, renal stress. Even, I mean, if we really want to get it, hepatic stress, right? Because all the food we eat and protein we eat goes down to our liver, and insulin sensitivity gets reduced. I mean, you're not doing anything that's going to truly benefit the outcome of your off season. So really realize that, hey, this frame of massing is not going to be added to with these off meals, in my opinion. Some coaches have different ones, and that's okay. The other thing you need to realize is that, you know, if these things are providing you a benefit, as I mentioned, you are missing something in your diet. There's something missing if you're gaining any sort of leverage from a cheat meal. Now, when you're in a deficit, this is a different story, and I'd still prefer refeeds, as in like increasing calories in the diet, but not cheat meals. But in a deficit where you are glycogen depleted, where you are sort of low in stores of intramuscular retention, water retention, triglyceride retention, and glycogen, that cheat meal is going to provide you a ergogenic benefit temporarily, sure, but not in the off season, not when you're already eating a decent amount of carbohydrates, a decent amount of food. If you are getting a benefit, that means you need to either work out your diet better and provide more food around certain areas of the day, eat more sodium, potassium, whatever that might be, but the cheat meal is not the answer. So let's say you do go get a cheat meal, and that's totally fine. As I mentioned, what kind of food are you looking to get in your cheat meal? Well, I always recommend to get the least processed version of food, and this is really kind of a hard topic to push to people because people like the processed, hyper-palatable foods. But this would be like Five Guys versus McDonald's. Five Guys uses whole foods. They make their potatoes fresh every day. They bake them or fry them in peanut oil, not like trans fats and other shit that McDonald's uses. It's super, super processed. Things like a bar and grill versus like Dairy Queen, having the ability to go out, sit down, and have a chef make your food as opposed to getting it from a menu on a drive-through. Once again, super, super beneficial because you get the real nutrients, you're getting the whole foods, you can account that this food isn't going to have things that are going to fuck your digestion. It's going to have basically the nutrients you'd normally eat, just in different quantities. Like authentic pizzerias, this is a big one for me. I love pizza, so I go to authentic pizza places that make their pizza fresh, their dough fresh every day. They get it shipped in from local place. There's an amazing place here, Pizza Luce. They have their meats from local farmers every single day, grass-fed. So that's where I like to go. They have gluten-free crust. It's amazing. Pizza Hut, on the other hand, is the alternative to all that. They literally use processed everything. Their dough is frozen and shipped in every day. They have like the most processed of processed meats on their pizzas. Like, not the place to go, right? And all the sugars that's in their tomato sauces and all this stuff, you don't want that. So picking the least processed option to go out and eat and have your cheat meal, that's the best way to do it. You also need to think of macro distribution, right? Like if you're going out and eating like a pizza and a shake, okay, that's like 80% fat literally, and that fat is stored as fat, and you're not going to really use any of it. It's probably going to cause a lot of issues for you at the end of the day and not provide any sort of benefit that we could leverage from a cheat meal. You're going to want to aim for a distribution of like 40-40-20, meaning 40% protein, 40% carbohydrates, and 20% fats. A burger is a great option for this because it has a large amount of carbohydrates. It has a good amount of beef in it, as long as you're getting the right kind of burger, not from like McDonald's. and it has a lot of good vegetables and other things in it that are really good, but it doesn't have a ton of fats unless you're like piling on mayonnaise and cheese and peanut butter, and that's a whole nother story. Same thing with like, we can take a pizza for example. You can get light cheese, light sauce pizza, which is phenomenal. You have a good decent amount of crust. You get a lot of meat on that pizza. It's going to be hearty. It's going to actually have nutrients that's going to benefit you, as opposed to just causing a detriment to your digestion. And this is a big part of it. If you do, and what you're going to eat, you don't want to plan it. You don't want to like think ahead and say, I'm going to go to this spot or this spot. Just generically say, I think I want a burger this week. Let's go out and have a burger, guys. Let's go out and have a pizza. Let's go out and do this. But don't plan ahead and like scout out the places you want to eat. Don't start planning on what you're gonna order, looking at the menus. This is really encouraging super negative behavior. This is a binge eating disorder 101. Do not plan these things. Do not make them the center of your week. Don't look forward to them, and that's what drives you through the week. This is really what causes issues in a diet. I eat cheat meals, and you guys have seen me all the time. It's like my favorite topic, right? I love cheat meals, but I don't want them. Like, that's the same thing. My coach tells me to have them. I do it because he tells me to, and he's like, hey, you need to eat more. Go to a buffet because you're not eating enough. And it's like, dude, I'm eating so much. I don't like them. I would just rather eat whole food, more of it every single day, as opposed to going out and getting these obnoxious meals. But it's what I do because it's on my plan. I just don't recommend it because it encourages this really bad behavior. And if that becomes the feedback to your week, the highlight and the peak, and everyone else is like kind of comes last, and all you're looking forward to is eating, you get really hyper focused on it, and you push all your friends away because you're trying to focus on that one meal. That's super destructive to a lifestyle, and it's not going to provide you any benefit. It creates a really negative feedback loop that's going to be super strong, and it's going to be really hard to get over, to be quite honest, because dopamine is a hell of a thing. It's a neurotransmitter that will ruin your life, or it could improve your life. It just depends on how you kind of frame that situation, and treating it as an adult is really important, and not many people are capable of that. So don't get hyper focused on those cheat meals. At this point, you should be so full in the massing phase that you really don't want to be having a cheat meal. It doesn't feel like it would be any sort of benefit to you because you're so full. You should be eating enough food that is not going to, you're not going to have any sort of hunger signaling like that, right? That's the goal, at least. So take that as you will. I really encourage you not to make that the center of your week. At the end of the day, you guys, this is it. Not everyone's going to be Mr. Olympia, right? Like, obviously, right? I'm not going to be, you're probably not going to be. Realistically, I might not even ever become an IFBB pro. The next guy might never even make it on a national stage ever, right? But you don't want to make this the center of your life. At the end of the day, you have to enjoy things. You're never going to be Mr. Olympia. I'm sorry. Like, most people don't realize how much it truly takes to leverage genetics to get to that level. It's not something you just waltz into. It's not something you just take 5 years to get into. It's something that takes an entire life, health, and time, and the pinnacle of genetics to even get to that level, let alone win it. So don't let this overly consume your life and feel like you have to diet day in, day out. It's something I do because, once again, a diet is a way of life for me. It's something I always try to encourage. It's a shift in mindset, right? I don't want to have the mindset of eating out as the norm. I want to have the mindset of eating in and cooking your own food is the norm. So that's my mindset. But at the end of the day, it is not something you need to jeopardize all your friendships, your romantic relationships, and your family because you're just choosing not to eat out or go out at all. I'm going to bring my meals if I go out, but I'm still going to go out and enjoy myself. You should probably do the same, or go out and eat and have that meal for yourself and your friends and family, not just yourself, right? And that goes to show too, like what I just said, dieting is a way of life. The word dieta is the Latin root word for way of life, which is the word that diet came from. So it's something that you have to realize, like, eating out is not going to benefit you any more than eating in. And having a cheat meal is not going to be more rewarding than the performance you gain from eating your normal meals in encouraging consistent and constant hypertrophy and recovery, as opposed to just having these large swings in calories. It's just not worth it. There's no extra benefit in eating this shit food. Like, I just want to push that home. You're not gaining anything. I don't care what any old school fucking gym rat says. Your physiology is not going to change if you eat a burger with a shit ton of shitty processed fats and trans fats and seed oils and all the things that are gonna fuck your digestion, and sugars, tons of sugars. Okay, if you think that really improves it, why don't you go home, make a nice 8-ounce meal of bison, some white rice, pour a ton of salt on it, some soy sauce, whatever you do, have a nice tablespoon of olive oil, maybe 2, throw that down. That's the same meal, but it's gonna be way better because it's calculated. Doesn't have all those trans fats, seed oils, sugars, all these other hydrogenated oils. It's going to be homemade, it's going to be organic, you know where it's coming from, and it's going to actually benefit you because the phytonutrients within that, hopefully grass-fed bison you got. The white rice is going to have an ergogenic aid because it's really, really high glycemic. It'll spike your insulin really quick. The bison has a high insulin index, so it's going to raise your insulin chronically, which is going to raise IGF-1 and systemically grow you. Like, these cheat meals are not. The biggest thing to take home is that there's just no extra benefit from eating shit food. You do the right thing for you. Now, I love cheat meals, and I honestly adore being able to eat out, go experience new food, meet new people, do new things. Life is centered around food, admittedly, but you have to be okay with the fact that that food is only going to be a detriment to you and not going to benefit your progress whatsoever. You have to realize and be okay with that fact. In our next video, we are going to talk about a lot of cool stuff, but mostly how to manage blood glucose or insulin sensitivity. You hear a lot of people talk about this in the off season and why it is crucial to do so. Thank you for sticking along. I know I talked about getting into the video of when to end a bulk, but I just didn't, I'm not gonna call it a bulk. When to end a massing phase, a weight gaining phase, but I really just felt like there was a lot more to cover, and this simple course was gonna be a basic one, but now I'm kind of making it not so basic just because I like to talk. Deuces.